Okay, wow. For a sport that gives us amazing finishes and improbable endings multiple times every weekend, that was pretty darn special. MarkRogersTV and ProFootballCentral.com, just a few minutes after Vanderbilt could not close the deal on Ole Miss. Rebels win it in the closing seconds, 39-35. And no, we're not going to give you the play-by-play. Watch the highlights. If you haven't seen it, poor you. Watch the highlights and check it out. Then come back and make some comments, especially Ole Miss and Vandy fans, because we would like to hear from you. The play of the game for me was the Jordan Matthews play on 4th and 18. Even though the Rebels won the game, Vandy lost. Jordan Matthews, you are remarkable. He got belted by Cody Pruett just a couple plays earlier, and he was back in the game. It looked like he had a concussion-like symptoms, vomiting on the field, just out of it, devastated. Any of us would still be laying in the fetal position somewhere. And Jordan Matthews, after a couple plays, was back in the football game. Vandy took some penalties, a sack. They were pushed back at 4th and 18. They were down by 3 points, 4 points at the game at that point, 32-28. And Jordan Matthews hauled in a reception remarkably after that devastating hit by Cody Pruett. A very clean, great football hit over the middle on a reception. So Choi gets the beneficiary of the blown coverage right after there on the next play and hauls in the touchdown. So Vandy takes the lead back at 35-32 with a $1:30 left. And then Jeff Scott gets loose and runs it all the way for a touchdown. Broken play. Rebs take over. Then Vandy on the ensuing kickoff gets a face mask. They make some plays and then feel really bad for Jordan Matthews here. This guy, one of the best in the SEC, one of the best in the country, will probably end his career as the SEC's. We're talking the SEC's all-time leading receiver, but he had a ball right in his hands that he could have hauled in, would have set them up nicely. They still had 45 seconds left to score the game-winning touchdown, down by 4, but it went right through his hands, right to Cody Pruett, his nemesis for the night. Pruett hauls it in and saves the game for Ole Miss. Rebs win at 39-35. So for a second consecutive year, these two teams play down to the wire. Okay, our thoughts on the game go back to just some of the playmakers, considering the circumstances surrounding these programs. For Vandy, of course, James Franklin has done an amazing job bringing actual SEC caliber athletes to Nashville to play for Vanderbilt, and we see it more and more every year. This team went 9-4 last season. They look to have replaced their quarterback, Jordan Rogers. Carter Samuels played a pretty good football game, made some mistakes, hangs onto the football quite a bit, and is really locked on Jordan Rogers. Jordan Matthews, that has to stop. He's got to find other receivers in the passing game. He's really locked on Matthews. Again, that has to change. He's one of the best in the nation, but he's got to spread it around and find some other playmakers in this offense for it to work. For the Ole Miss Rebels fans, you probably have caught our post possibly on the recruiting class that was amazing. It usually takes 2 or 3 years to evaluate a recruiting class, but I think we did it like in 1 quarter of football on opening night, with Ole Miss really upping the ante in the SEC West when it comes to recruiting amazing talent. Not necessarily just hordes of talent, but really special players. Robert Nkemdiche, we saw him make some plays and run down some ball carriers and really chase the quarterback around at 300 pounds. The guy can run. He's an athlete at 300 pounds, obviously, as the #1 recruited player in America. The guy that really caught our eye, mainly because of the position he plays, obviously, Laquon Treadwell. Wow. The guy reaching back behind his head, hauling in a pass behind his back with one hand. He's long, he's lanky, he's got a great stride, he runs by people, he's so smooth, he's got great hands. Laquon Treadwell already making plays in his first football game at Ole Miss in the SEC against a really good defense. Laquon Treadwell should be something special. And we also saw from Tony Connor, The very first possession of the game, picked off a pass, ripped it away from the receiver, made a remarkable play on that possession to give Ole Miss a 3-0 lead after the field goal. The Rebels, after a botched punt, they took it in to make it 10-0, and the Rebels looked to be in great shape. But again, Vandy really controlled the football game in the second into the third quarter, leading by 11 on 2 occasions before the Rebels came back, and it turned into a special football game in Nashville. In particular, Ole Miss fans, the big question coming into this season, not that you had a great recruiting class, but could these guys step in and make an impact in the first season? Well, I think we've gotten the beginning, at least the beginning of our answer. I think we've got our answer because they didn't do it against Nicholls State. They did it against Vanderbilt on the road, and they have to have gotten a shot of confidence after this victory and pulling this out in impressive fashion, especially after what happened last season. So Ole Miss fans would love to hear what you have to think about your football team. I know what you think about your football team, but in particular, this amazing recruiting class stepping up and making plays in Game 1. And Vandy fans, you've got to be proud of Jordan Matthews and your football team as well. Would love to hear from you on MarkRogersTV and ProFootballCentral.com.